And it'll be dropping at the same time, same place tomorrow. So if you're up for round 2, I'd love to have you back. Thank you so much once again. But until then, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. See you tomorrow.